in the staff, board, none of them were actual lived sex workers or people who had experienced sex trafficking. Lucky for Cupcake Girls, I'm both, So, and a really interesting opportunity happened when I became a board member.
Welcome back to On the Horizon. This is Melrose Michaels. I am your host, and I'm here to share what's worked for me in building my adult creator business to try to make building yours just a little bit easier. Let's get into today's episode. Hello, everyone. Today we have the Cupcake Girls and Charlotte Stokely joining us. So the Cupcake Girls is this industry organization that some of you may know, some may never have heard of it, and a lot of you may have heard a lot about it. But today we are setting the record straight with Charlotte Stokely herself. So Charlotte Stokely is a 14-time Lesbian Performer of the Year and AVN Hall of Fame winner. She's also been chairman of the Cupcake Girls org for 3 years running. And what many don't know at first glance is that she's also a certified sex educator and certified health coach. Today, she's joining us to discuss what exactly the Cupcake organization is and what it isn't. So thank you so much, Charlotte, for taking the time to join us today.
Thank you so much. I am here with a lot of gratitude, not only for the time and space you're providing me, but also just for the work that you're doing. I've been watching you since day one, and I'm loving everything you're doing.
Oh, I appreciate that. That means a lot. I really, really appreciate that. I have so much that I want to get into, but I think maybe to set kind of like background and context for the rest of the conversation, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your career kind of prior to getting involved with the Cupcake Girls? So how did you wind up getting into the adult industry just yourself?
I've always been a lover. I mean, I'm a Leo, so I've always loved being in front of the camera. And I have a very intense passion about learning about the human body, whether that be psychological, biological, or sexual. I love the human body, and I've always had a strong empathy and compassion for other human beings. So it made sense to really have this unique opportunity that I don't think a lot of people realize is that when you are in the porn field, you create really special bonds with fans who tell you things that they would never tell their partner, or really helping them explore themselves. And that really is just such a special moment that I've really loved every single day of my 20-year career. I started a company to provide services for specifically people in the sex work industry. And I realized that was a lot of work. And then I met the Cupcake Girls, and I was like, oh, I don't want to compete with you. What if I just joined my forces and my wisdom and my experience and my intense and innovative ideas with you? So that's how I got to know the Cupcake Girls. And that's a little bit about me. I love humans. I love everything about them. And I want to make the world easier for everyone.
I love that. And that's a testament to your career, right? 20 years is a rare thing to accomplish as an adult performer, I think. That's not the time span we often hear performers coming to the table with. 20 years is a stretch. It takes a lot to be relevant and stay on top of it. That's massive.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really like to talk about my age, but let's just say my first porn videos were on VHS, and there was no Facebook, there was no Instagram. It was a lot more difficult to really stand out, to get those box covers, to get those contracts. And I really love the way technology is going today. For example, you're able to have a live Twitter space to share your knowledge with everyone, where I'm also now allowed to really connect with my fans. So yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It's not an easy job to be in for 20 years.
Yeah. So I guess to kind of continue to lay the groundwork, what is the Cupcake Girls? Is for those who might not be familiar, and you guys provide a lot of resources. Obviously, you combined forces, and this was something you were doing even before your time with the Cupcake Girls. But what does the organization do? What kind of things can a sex worker benefit from them?
Yeah, thank you. That's a great question. Actually, it's interesting because a lot of people don't know the plethora and multitude of the resources that we offer. So we're a national nonprofit, and once in a while, we also have program participants that are not even in the country because we don't want to turn anyone down. We do our best we can with our funding abilities, but we provide, the basic staples of mental health services, but we also provide, for example, helping keep custody of your children, legal services, medical services with vetted dentists, because you're a sex worker and you go to the dentist, you're in a very vulnerable position. So we offer legal, medical, mental health, we help with financial aid, we help with housing, just the list goes on. If there's a need for it, we either partner with other nonprofits to help provide those resources, or we do absolutely anything we can to help you meet you where your needs are, what you need from us. We are more than happy with a judgment-free zone and a holistic approach to meet you what you need. I could go into it longer, but I know we have a limited amount of time.
Yeah. So I guess this is like, I want to kind of go back to my first exposure for the Cupcake Girls was, I want to say a few, maybe like 4 years ago now. And it kind of leads me to this sort of elephant in the room because when I was first introduced to the org myself, the impression that was kind of explained to me or how it was pitched to me is that the goal for the org was actually to get performers out of porn. So like almost this like save them, so to speak. I actually found an old article that the quote from the article was that clients had shared experiences where they felt the Cupcake Girls org had been pushing them to leave the sex work industry and or take on or join kind of like religiously affiliated referral services. Can you give some background to the stigma that people might still think is associated with the org?
Yeah, thank you. I want to appreciate you being open and saying that that was an older article. So
Definitely.
when I first started with the Cupcake Girls, I was a community activator, which is something that anyone listening today can be. And I sat in a very uncomfortable round table, closed doors event where some of our program participants, they used to be called clients. That's one of the changes we've made. So we didn't think that sounded very good. And I was really shocked to hear about some of the harmful experiences that some people were experiencing, such as, well, I don't want to give anyone's information away, but it was a really great opportunity for me. So when you have an organization, you have the intent to do good, right? But no one in the staff, no one on the board, none of them were actual lived sex workers or people who had experienced sex trafficking. Lucky for Cupcake Girls, I'm both, kidnapped at gunpoint for 4 days and sold as a sex slave until I escaped. And then I also entered porn and I've done camming and stripping and everything. So, and a really interesting opportunity happened when after being a community activator, I became a board member. At that same time, the previous executive director stepped down.
Okay.
And that was a really wonderful moment for me to put in my emphasis, my innovation, my ideas. We completely rebuilt the Cupcake Girls. What it was 5 years ago is absolutely not what it is today. I worked really hard to make sure that was not the case, including getting more sex workers and sex trafficking survivors in the staff and on the board. And by the way, just quick little plug, we are accepting board enrollment applications. So if you would like to apply, whoever's listening, I would love to hear from you. So we implemented a stronger vetting with therapists, the dentist, the legal people, personnel, and also went through all of the programs themselves and what they looked like and really like fine combed them from the eyes of someone with the lived experience and the wisdom. So what Cupcake Girls is today is not what it was 5 years ago. I can promise you that. I've worked very hard to make sure that's not the case. And I do want to take a moment to say that I'm really sorry, and I very empathetically feel for anyone who did in the past have a negative experience. I'm very sorry to hear that, but I do hope to rebuild your trust because we're working very hard to make sure that never happens again. But again, the previous executive director is no longer with us. So things are very different now.
Yeah, it's interesting too because even with like Sex Work CEO and we're slowly starting to kind of grow and expand, like it's very easy, at least in my experience with a small company, an organization to kind of like lose sight of the mission or of the vision or let people kind of creep in if you don't kind of really have your eye on it and really keep your focus on intent. Just because as things grow, everyone gets one removed. So I feel like sometimes it's hard for sex workers, it's hard for us as a community to trust people in general, anyways, right? So when it comes to an organization, when I think it's important that we kind of keep focus on this idea of like second chances and things can be turned around and things can be made anew because everything is at the end of the day kind of run with humans and there's good and bad everyone and people do make mistakes and it sounds like with you guys kind of revamping from the inside out, getting rid of that board member and especially you coming on with, like you said, the lived experience, like that is such a vastly different picture being painted than what my first exposure was. So that's like not only amazing to hear, but the more we can get people from our community involved in these organizations, like earlier your shameless plug, like I love that because it gives more of the community to have more of an effect on things that serve their community. And at the end of the day, I think we know each other best and what our needs are. So that's huge.
Yeah, absolutely. I do want to kind of backtrack on what you said, and it wasn't a board member that we got rid of, it was the executive director. So
Executive
a
director.
lot more powerful of an impact and change.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
If you're enjoying this podcast episode so far, please take one moment to share it with another one of your adult content creator friends because you know what the rule is here. We do not gatekeep, and we want to make as many adult creators' businesses as easy as possible. And you sharing this episode with them might do exactly that. Thanks so much in advance.
And I'm curious, because I was going to ask you originally, like, what drew you to this kind of work? And it sounded like you earlier started to allude to having your own story. Would you be comfortable sharing that?
I'm pretty comfortable with most things. I don't like tomatoes. I'm not comfortable with those. So if it doesn't involve tomatoes, I'm game. Yeah, so I had for many, many years an underground suicide watch. Sorry, trigger warning, my bad. But for many, many years, I would give very special care to my fellow peers. And then obviously, my personal experiences that I've encountered, because I mean, 20 years in porn and a sex trafficking survivor, I've seen a lot of things. I realized that joining forces was the way to go. I can only do so much as one person because, like, I'm not a licensed therapist. I am a sex educator and a health coach, but I'm not a licensed therapist. And when I was having my underground suicide watch program, I could only do so much. And that would involve like going to their house or asking if they want to go on a hike with me. But that's really nice and helpful, but it wasn't enough. And I just really felt I was so sad that I couldn't do more. And when I saw the resources that the Cupcake Girls had and the ability to create change for the better, it just was a no-brainer for me. I applied for the board. I was on the board for a year. Then I became chairwoman. That's another little correction I want to make. I'm not chairman, I'm chairwoman. Because, women can do things.
That's right.
And thank you. I've been with Cupcake Girls now for 5 years. And I can't even begin to tell you the positive impacts we've had in so many different ways. I did want to touch base on something you mentioned earlier about how asking sex workers to leave their field. We don't do that. That might have been a thing with the past director, but it's definitely not something we do now at all.
Well, I was going to ask too, because when we have these kinds of conversations in the adult space that also involve conversations around, sex trafficking and sex work, it's really often that those things get conflated by like the conservative right or religious orgs or like anti-porn propagandists, and they aren't the same thing. So I'd love it if you could kind of help define the people listening, because if this gets to, civilian ears or someone outside the industry's ears, I'd love for them to understand the difference of what sex trafficking is and what it isn't, and why, being a sex worker does not automatically mean you're a sex trafficking victim.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, I do want to say that since I've been on the board, we've, as an organization, focused very heavily on decriminalization of sex work. We also had a lot of really great hooray moments where we would fly to either DC or to different courthouses across the nation. And we worked really closely with strippers union as well. And we're able to help get them official legal rights, which was great. But yeah, so sex trafficking is when you are forced. Like, I don't even want to use the word coerced. You are forced into this sexual act of labor against your will. That's sex trafficking. Sex work is consensual. It's an understanding. These are my boundaries. These are my rights, which you talk about a lot with Sex Work CEO, like boundaries and everything. It's really interesting because in my experience, the people that I know who have the strongest boundaries of what they are willing and not willing to do are sex workers. So it's a very interesting, empowering situation to be in if you are able to stick to your boundaries, because that's when things sometimes get a little sticky. But yeah, sex work is consensual. Sex trafficking is against your will. But that's the clear, distinct difference between sex trafficking and sex work.
Thank you so much. I think that's so helpful because, with everything that goes on, especially with all the policy changes that are coming down the pipeline, even, the new stuff with age verification, there's a lot of things that get named one thing and mean another. And I feel like
Absolutely.
like defining things is so important.
Can I give you an example?
Yeah, please.
So we recently, not when I say we, I speak for the org, but our current director, Amy, she met with FBI retirees and had a whole conversation with them about the difference between sex work and sex trafficking. And you know what they said? They said, we didn't know that.
Wow.
It was amazing. And then they became a donor. And what? And we also, Amy and I, very specifically, just us 3 years ago, we went and we knew that the AVN convention was no longer going to be at the Hard Rock and it was going to Resorts World. We met with the head of security, who is a retired police chief or something. We met with him in person and helped train them and talk to them about how, when the convention is happening, these girls are consensual sex workers and how to spot an actual sex trafficking victim. And so we've been really going into the casinos and really trying to make that difference, because I don't understand why it's difficult to understand the difference between a consensual sex worker and someone who's being trafficked against their will. But there is a really weird thickness around that a lot of the non-sex work community just doesn't understand. And it's harmful to us. It's harmful when you are consensually sex working and then you get arrested, which, don't even get me started on that, how the pimp has more protection than the girl being harmed. But then the courts want to take their children away.
Yeah.
Because they have this mark. So it's really important. I think it really comes down to the education, to really understanding what are those differences. And that will really make a huge impact in a lot of people's lives.
Is there a signature that someone could notice or spot potentially where it's a easy identifier that says this person's consensually doing sex work and this person's being trafficked?
I don't think there's any one clear thing other than consent.
Yeah.
I think it's too vast of a variety. If I could look at someone and just go, oh yeah, no, I can't do that.
Yeah.
That's why we need to let people know that we're available. So if they are in a situation that's not helpful to them, they know that they're not alone. Like when I was kidnapped at gunpoint for 4 days and sex trafficked when I was 17 in Florida, I was terrified to go to the police because I didn't know who were the men that did this. I didn't know how powerful they were. Also, just my own upbringing. I was like, am I in trouble? Mm-hmm. And if the Cupcake Girls had existed when that happened to me, I would have been very grateful for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's just really important that people know we exist. We are ran by sex workers and sex trafficking survivors now. We weren't in the past, but we are now. And that we are here for you. And we really want you, we want your trust because we really want to help.
And we need all the help we can get in this space. So I think that there's so much good to be done. And that's why I think it was really important to make sure that me and you got together and did this. I know we spoke at Expos LA briefly, and we're like, we should really do this, because when something like this turns over and an organization's really out there and doing good, like, I want to platform them. I want to make sure all the creators that follow us know that the resources are available and that this exists and that there's help. So I'm super glad that we actually made time to do this and that you were available. And I'm super grateful that we were able to pull this off.
Yeah, no, I thank you for that. I really appreciate it. I think you're a very high value person in the way that you really care about the community. I can really see that in your work. And also, Bren, you're here too. I see you. But I want to make another selfish / selfless plug that because we are a nonprofit, we don't just randomly get like a bunch of money to help people. If anyone could consider either volunteering their time and being a community activator, or being a monthly donor, or buying a ticket to our prom we have in Vegas next month, these services aren't free. We're not asking therapists and legal workers and housing people, organizations to do their services for free. Like, this does cost us money. And one of the hardest parts of my day is when I have to close down the application process for program participants because we just can't afford to help any more people. So even like $30 a month or $10 a month just makes such a big impact in someone's lives in a marginalized community. It really just helps uplift us all together, but also let us know that people do care and their rights matter. Their basic human rights matter.
100%. When you talk about the community activator, what does that role kind of look like, in case anyone who's listening is interested?
A community activator is a really simple role that really goes a long way, because I started as a community activator. It was, I got a cute little Cupcake Girl t-shirt and I would just let people know that it exists. It can be as simple as that. It's a volunteer position, to one, help spread the word that we exist and just be a little bit more involved. This is a little step up, more involvement in the community. There is no real actual task. It just says like, you're on our team and let's go and let's really help people know that these services exist, because we are the only national nonprofit that offers everything that we do. And I will say we work very closely with to my best of my knowledge, all of the other nonprofits. We really have a strong sense of community where we want to work together. But a community activator, it's in the name. It activates the community.
I love that. Is there anything that maybe like we didn't cover that you want to discuss or promote or just let people know about regarding the Cupcake Girls?
Just a reiteration that I'm sorry about any harm that was caused in the past 5 years ago. I can't believe 5 years have gone by, but we are not that same organization anymore at all. I worked very, very hard alongside the new executive director, Amy, to make sure that that does not happen in the future. And we've rewritten all our programs and we re-vetted everyone. I just want to reiterate the elephant, I guess, that was 5 years ago. And we've worked really hard to make these changes and remind everyone that the board application enrollment is open. So if you are a sex worker and you are not seeing the changes you want to see, either talk to me directly. I am always available. I work 24/7. Or please apply to be on the board, because your voice matters. That's why we're doing this.
Absolutely. Oh, I love this so much. All right. Well, Charlotte, as we go to wrap up, do you want to plug your socials, your site, the Cupcake Girls site or socials?
Yeah, I'm Char_Stokely on Twitter, charlottestokely.com. thecupcakegirls.org. It's really important to put org in the URL. And yeah, I'm available anytime for anyone. I love the community. I would love to hear your questions, your thoughts, your concerns, your ideas.
I love this so much. Okay, so I think we can wrap this up. I just want to shout out to Thanks, Cupcake Girls, for your actual account joining. Hopefully that gets some reach on the space. And like I see Allie, who's huge in the community here. I see a handful of people who are super active, and like makes me really hopeful, because I think the more, like we said, that people get involved, the more change and impact we get to have. And that's always kind of what it takes to make things different. It's like getting the community itself to activate. And that's the same message that we're doing here. I want the business education especially to be available for the creators. So it took a creator to kind of do that. And I think that it makes perfect sense that it would have taken you to come in to Cupcake Girls to revamp and turn things around. But I'm super excited for you guys' future. And I can't wait to kind of like follow this journey and see people get involved and see the growth and the work that you guys do, and keep providing the resources that you guys can. So this is super exciting. Like,
Aw, thank you.
yeah, absolutely. So everyone, make sure you're following Charlotte. Make sure you're following the Cupcake Girls, and we'll start to wrap up the space.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. We'll have to do this again for sure.
Oh, I would totally be down. Yeah.
Love that. All right. So as many of you guys have seen, we've been putting out new content over on our YouTube channel. So if you're not subscribed to us on YouTube, please do so at youtube.com/SWCEO, and make sure your notifications are on so that you never miss a new course. In our latest video, we talk about Fans Revenue's groundbreaking new OnlyFans offers. Whether you are looking to monetize an untapped segment of your audience or monetize other niches, you can even set up passive income streams on OnlyFans once you're decided to kind of leave these platforms or the fan site model behind. There's so many reasons to check out the new OnlyFans affiliate offers on Fans Revenue. Want to give a huge thank you to everyone who subscribed to our Telegram bot already. If you haven't already heard, we released a Telegram bot that essentially sends you daily content inspiration and all of the captions you need for your feed, PPV locked messages, clip stores, etc. The ideas are researched to be trendy and highly desirable for what your fans are currently seeking, and the captions are optimized with calls to action so that you can increase your earning and unlock potential with each one. The Telegram bot pushes your daily dose of inspiration to your phone every day around 10 a.m. Central, so that you no longer have to waste your time researching, planning, or coming up with the content ideas. The bot takes care of all of it. If you aren't an active Telegram user, do not worry. We do have PDF downloadable versions of the content inspo captions, which you can get right now on our store at sexworkceo.com/shop. Those are available, as well as free scripts there as well, so you can try one without even purchasing. So head on over to the website and the shop if you are interested. I do want to take the opportunity and remind all of you listening about SWR Data, my other company, in case you're not yet familiar. SWR Data is on a mission to survey adult creators like you, and we want to hear your feedback about the challenges you face and how the adult industry can better serve your needs. Our goal is to collect your experiences, opinions, and observations from the current state of the adult industry. We'll then use this data to advocate for the necessary changes to make it a better place for us, the creators. The reality is, a lot of the people in power have never been creators or simply don't have the lens to know what our needs are. SWR Data is that lens. However, we can't do it alone. So for that reason, we're inviting any creator who's willing to participate in our qualifying survey, which helps us understand your expertise as an adult creator. By taking the survey, you can then start participating in future paid surveys, with our ultimate aim for the CEO squad to have additional income stream through surveys alone. Our experience as creators is valuable, and we think it's time we get paid for it. I want to emphasize that all of the information we put out here, we do so for free because we have this idea that the more financially successful creators are, the more resources we'll have as a community to do things like lobby Congress, impact policy, organize, and more. So if you find value in the content you heard here today or the tweets you've engaged with, please, please, please consider sharing it to make this journey easier for your own adult creator friends. Our only ask is that you retweet our stuff so that we can help as many creators as humanly possible. That is going to bring us to the end of today's space. Huge thank you to everyone who joined in. Remember, we do turn all of these into blog posts over on our website, SWCEO.com. So just head over there to revisit any of the topics we talked about in today's episode. Thank you again for joining me today, CEO Squad, and I will see you 1 week from now.
It would be absolutely incredible if you rated this podcast 5 stars and left a little review. We want to get this podcast to as many adult creators as possible, and you taking a second to leave a couple stars and a review really helps us do that. Thanks so much.